The other day, I got an email from a viewer saying I was a bad person and a bad example for the gun community, which I usually agree with, but not in this case, because they said that the reason I'm a bad example is because I buy foreign guns, and that I support our enemies overseas by buying foreign guns, and that I should only buy American guns made by American companies with American labor. Well, today I want to look at that and see if that is true. Should we be doing that? And is it even really possible? Hey everybody, Yankee here. You know, if you're around my age, you were probably raised to buy American. Cars, appliances, whatever. You bought from an American company, you supported American labor. And it was pretty cut and dry. You know, if you bought from an American company, you were keeping that money domestic. If you bought from a foreign company, you were sending that money overseas to potential enemies, you know, people that were competing with us, taking American jobs. And like I said, someone the other day said that that's something we should be taking into account when we buy guns. And that someone like me, who buys a lot of SIGs and a lot of Berettas, that we're setting a bad example because we're sending money overseas. And we shouldn't be doing that. Well, is it really that cut and dry when you buy a gun? I mean, what companies are even American anymore? Now, there are some companies that are 100% American, you know, like Bond Arms or Mossberg. If you want to buy a Derringer or a shotgun, you've got options that are 100% American family owned, produced in America, etc. But when it gets to bigger companies, it gets a little more convoluted. I mean, CZ, Beretta, Sig Sauer, they're all foreign companies, right? So if you buy them, you're sending money overseas, correct? Well, a lot of them make their guns here with foreign labor. So that's money from overseas, that's foreign money coming into this country. And a lot of companies that are even 100% American, a lot of times they make a lot of their products overseas or they import them. You know, like when Springfield Armory brings in a lot of their guns and resells them. Or a lot of the importers that you might think are American, they bring a lot of their products in from overseas. So that money is going to producers over there, a big chunk of it. Not a lot of American labor involved in them. And even some of the ones that do produce guns here in America, they use a lot of parts that are farmed out. Or they take all their profits and they don't keep it domestic. They ship them overseas. They ship that money into offshore accounts and foreign accounts where it's tax protected. So are you really supporting American workers when you buy one brand over another? Well, it really is hard to tell. It's even hard to know who owns what nowadays. Like I said, when you look at big companies, it's hard to tell. Even if they seem really American, like Ruger and Smith & Wesson and Colt. Well, Colt is owned by CZ. They're owned by a group over there in the Czech Republic. Smith & Wesson is owned by a British company. Ruger's publicly traded. It's still an American company, but it's publicly traded, so people all over the world own shares in Ruger. So profits from Ruger go all over the place. So are you really definitely supporting America just by buying one of those brands? And like I said, do you know that even if a gun is manufactured here, are they getting all their metal from here? Are they getting their parts from here? Are they farming out parts? You know, what are they doing? It's to where you don't really know what you're buying these days. It's like with cars. If you're not careful and you don't pay attention and you're wanting to buy American and you go out and you're like, I'm going to buy a Ford or a Chevy. Well, you might end up with a Ford made in Mexico or a Chevy made in Canada, or you might end up with a Honda made in America. Or Toyota made in America, where actually more money goes into American pockets, laborers, etc. Here, when you buy the foreign car, the profits go overseas somewhat because there's a lot of American investors in those companies too. So the money kind of gets distributed around. So it's really hard to tell. You know, did you do the more American thing by buying a Dodge that's owned by a foreign company that makes their cars in Canada? Or did you do a more American thing by buying a Volkswagen that's rolling off of a factory somewhere in the South? You know, it's really hard to tell. And it's kind of like that with guns. It's hard to tell who makes what gun and what one is really supporting America more. And here's something else. Here's another reason why it's something I don't stress as much to buy American products when it comes to guns. Because like I said, some of the biggest manufacturers in this country are foreign-owned companies. Smith & Wesson, foreign-owned, but it's a big manufacturer here, so that's one that's really gray area. But as I was saying, even some of the things like Sig Sauer bread, they make a lot of stuff here. So a lot of things you buy are made here. It's like you hear people talk all the time like, boy, I want a German-made Sig Sauer, because most of them are made here now. People saying, ooh, I want an Italy-made Beretta, because most of them are made here. And a lot of people will say, well, the ones made over there are better. That's a different topic, and I would contest that. I've owned dozens of both, and I've never really seen a major difference between the ones made over there and the ones made here, other than different finishes sometimes. But as I was saying, I was saying, it's hard to know who that money's going to when you buy a product. So, do your research, and if a gun is made here in America, I don't think it really matters who owns it. Because like I said, you usually end up with American investors getting profits they ship overseas. At least when you're buying a foreign company's gun made here, foreign money's coming into America. If it's an American company making it here and shipping the profits overseas, that money originated here and now it's going overseas. So you can see it's confusing. And another thing I think you should think about with guns is it shouldn't matter where it comes from. Because unlike when you're buying a refrigerator, a TV, car, whatever, we're not talking about, well, one might last a little longer. One might give you a little better performance, slightly better, like more horsepower. Or might get better gas mileage, things like that. A TV made in Korea might have a slightly better picture and last a little bit longer than one made in Kentucky. And that really doesn't make much of a difference in your life. Buy the one made in Kentucky, support America. Have a little bit less of a resolution. I can't even tell with my eyes. And if it burns out 6 weeks sooner, well, then you just buy a new TV 6 weeks sooner. It's something you do for America. That makes sense. But when you're choosing a gun that you're going to defend your life with, you buy the best one you can get. The one you shoot the straightest. The one you think gets the job done the best. The one that's the most reliable. Doesn't matter if it's made in Austria or made in America and owned by someone in Austria or owned by an American company and made in the Czech Republic. Doesn't matter. Whatever one is best is the one you should carry. And that's the one you should buy. And hope that it's made here. And at least the workers. I think it's more important where a gun is made. Because who's turning that gun off the line? Now keep in mind, that's not always the case. Just because something's made here doesn't mean they got a big assembly line of people making it. Some things made here are just shipped here in pieces. And they got 3 little Korean ladies they imported from wherever, assembling them all day long, just putting them together. So be careful about stuff like that too. But like I said, when it comes to guns, most of the major manufacturers, if they're made here, you're doing okay. You don't really have to worry about that. And like I said, get the best gun. Now, I do say, don't support states that are, active terrorist states. Like I won't buy anything from Turkey because I do not like Turkey. I have personal experiences with them, don't like the leadership, don't like the people. They are horrible on women's rights. They're even worse on gay rights. And they're just horrible on human rights all the way around. Even if you're people who just live on the wrong side of an imaginary line in their area. They're horrible about stuff like that. The only place I'll give them kudos is they're really nice to animals. Especially dogs and cats. They treat stray animals in their country almost like they're royalty. Like they have an obligation to care for them. So that's one thing I will give them kudos for. But when it comes to dealing with people, they're not so good. Which I can understand that. I don't really like people. I like pets, so I can almost give them a pass, but I don't because my own personal experiences with them, they piss me off too much in my life. I just don't want to buy something from them. So I don't buy Turkish products. And I don't tell people to boycott Turkish products. I just say I wouldn't buy them and here's why I wouldn't buy them. And that's all I do. Now, some people will say, oh, you can't buy Sig Sauer, and then say, oh, I don't like can it because they're made in Turkey because Sig Sauer, they're Germans. That was the Nazis. Well, I don't know if you've read a newspaper lately, but I don't think Hitler's been in charge for a while. I really don't think he's got any stock in the company right now. Whereas in Turkey, the same dictator's in charge now. The guy who staged a fake coup several years ago so he could take over the country and steer it more towards a Muslim-based leadership and he could be president for life. That guy's still in charge today. And any company operating inside their country, they've got their hands in it. Or at least there's a good chance they do, and I don't want to support that. But if you do, I don't care. Like I said, you buy the best gun for you. Fortunately for me, Canik is not the best gun I can buy for me. I shoot other guns better, so I don't have to take that in consideration, so I don't buy from Turkey. And I don't say to anyone, oh, you bought a German gun, that's a Nazi gun, because I'm smarter than that, I guess I should say. So in the end, it's really, like I said, a very murky subject when it comes to buying American, when it comes to gun, even though that's the rage right now. It's what everybody's talking about, bringing production back to America, blah, blah, blah. A lot of that production is already here when it comes to guns because of import rules, so that really doesn't apply. So choose the best gun for you. If you do want to take a stand on, I won't buy a gun from this company or that company, do it for something important, like how I do with Turkey, because of how they interact with the rest of the world. But otherwise, buy what gun is best for you. Hope you're supporting as many American workers as you possibly can. Hope those dollars are staying in this country. But at the end of the day, that gun's got to work for you. It's got to give you the biggest chance of surviving. And that's what's most important. Overseas, keep our dollars domestic. American companies doing that, not buying from I think a lot of us do think about. A lot of us try to do. The thing a lot of us try to do is buying a. Let's talk about whether that is that we should be buying American. Can you even know if you're buying? Like I said in the opening, should we be? And Ruger, God damn it. This is a bad idea. He's overseas by but, and when it comes to guns, God damn it, why did I say but? But